The following podcast is brought to you by the Johners Podcasting Network, found exclusively at wrestlingwithjohners.com. Welcome to episode 215. This is our third year anniversary show of Wrestling with Johners, a proud member of the Johners Podcasting Network. And yes, 3 years ago today, November 2018, was episode number one. Of course, we weren't doing it live back then, but still having a lot of fun. 3 years later, and many guests from around the UK, Europe, and international have come on the show and have had a blast speaking to them. Today is no different. Got an international sensation, Fireball, Francesco Akira. How are you doing, Francesco? Great to have you on the show, and thank you for being such a special guest on this special episode.
No worries, man. It's a pleasure to meet you and pleasure to meet everyone, and thank you for inviting me here.
Oh, 100%. We're going to have some fun over the next hour or so. And anybody that's watching or listening at home, if you want to drop in any questions for Francesco Akira, former All Japan Pro Wrestling World Junior Heavyweight Champion, of course, and so much to talk about his career, please send us your questions and we'll do our best to answer every single question live during this broadcast. But Francesco, I have to start with a bit of an injury update from yourself, because you have had to drop out of a couple of shows recently. Rev Pro's British J Cup, and of course this coming weekend would have been your debut for Wrestle Carnival. But first of all, how are you? And give us a bit of an update on your injury.
So I'm recovering well. It was like a little bit like sad time because I never had like a long time stop injury. Even if it's not a long time, because I'm recovering well, it's like feels long time for me because this is my main job.
Yeah.
So it's kind of tough, but I'm recovering well. So I take a like strong hit on my right knee.
Right.
So I had like an hematoma inside my knee, and it's like recovering well, but like little by little. So I had to quit some show, and it was really sad because I was really looking forward to that, like the British J Cup, the match with Ridgeway and all of that. But, health comes first, and I recover soon to come back stronger later.
Oh, 100%. We can't wait to see you back. And especially now that you're back over here in Europe and the UK, we want to get to see more of you. But and the injury happened during a match. Can you remember? Can you tell us how the injury happened?
It happened like during a match. It was like during a match in Italy. I was doing a suicide dive. But usually I go very fast, but crowd didn't move. So I slow down at the last to save the crowd, but I hit my knee very strong on the floor, and luckily I had my knee pad, because if I didn't, I was going to break completely my knee.
Yeah, and I'm guessing that you were able to finish the match. But how's the rehabbing going? I'm guessing that you're training hard and you're rehabbing your knee to hopefully come back as soon as you possibly can.
Yeah, so I'm still training the upper part. I didn't stop about that. So I'm going to the gym, being careful to the knee, doing some physio, going to specialist doctor and special visit to make it recover well. So yeah, little by little, I'm recovering.
Absolutely. Now, Francesco, before we go any further, I need to throw out a quick plug to the sponsors of this podcast. And that, of course, is, if I can just bring it up here, the wonderful 1310 Apparel. They not only sponsor the Johners Podcasting Network, but this very podcast, Wrestling with Johners. And if you go over to their store over on the Wrestle Merch Central, you can see their exclusive hardcore range there, and their exclusive lucha range, and of course their more traditional 1310 Apparel and Four Corners range. They sponsor some of the more well-known wrestlers from around Europe and the UK, including Heidi Katrina and Northwest Strong Chris Ridgeway, who would have been Akira's opponent this coming Sunday, but that will happen somewhere down the line. And of course, you can take advantage of our offer with 1310 Apparel. Go to their global store at WrestleMerch Central. Should be able to click in the link to the description of this podcast, or simply go to 1310.merch.global and use the discount code 1310WMC at checkout. So take advantage of that. But Akira, it's back to us again. I want to talk to you about the matches you've had so far this year, because you've besides the injury which you're recovering from currently, you've had a phenomenal 2021 over here in the UK and across Europe as well. But WXW. You made your debut for WXW a couple of months ago, I think, back in September, in a match against Robert Dreitzger, and then you had the phenomenal four-way match at the Catch Grand Prix against Axel Deicher, Dennis Dolnig, and Tristan Archer, friend of the show, of course. A great way to make an impression on the WXW fans in those two matches.
So yeah, WXW has always been like a big dream for me, because it's one of the top company in Europe, one of the longest, and like few guys from All Japan wrestle for like WXW. So for me, it was really special. And when they contacted me for like wrestling in the Catch Grand Prix, it was like, oh wow, we are doing this. I'm really doing this. Yeah. It was kind of dream, and I absolutely love WXW because like the fans are great. The organization are great, the wrestler are great, and like everyone is good there, and like very, very talented wrestler. So I had really good time, and being debuted there, like doing my seminar before during the day, and then the main event at 9. For me, like I'm still 21, it was like wow, finally, I'm little by little I'm doing something, and I really like it.
Yeah, absolutely. And those matches and the talent that you were in the ring with as well. And tell us about that four-way match, because I've seen it back a couple of times. It's just non-stop action between the four of you in the Catch Grand Prix first round. And you weren't successful, but still a fantastic match to be a part of.
Yeah, it was like, I really enjoyed the match because, there was like Dennis Dulnik that I met like a long time ago.
Yeah.
And he's a good friend of mine. Tristan Archer, I worked for the first time with him. And like Axman, that is like former WWE.
Oh yeah.
I could learn so much from Axman, and the other guy too, but especially Axman, because he is so smart about pro wrestling that gave me like a lot of like open my world. It was really like learning experience for me. I didn't get the win, but the experience was great, and
yeah,
I'm ready to go back and like smash it again.
Yeah, 100%. And over here in the UK, you've had some great matches. I think it was for Rev Pro. You fought Robbie X in a really, really fantastic match. And you've recently had a match drop on ICW, Insane Championship Wrestling up in Scotland on the WWE Network. And that was against Ian Skinner, I think it was, wasn't it? So tell us about those two matches, because once again, you're fighting like the cream of the UK talent there.
Yeah, Rev Pro, like WXW is it's probably the top 3. Is like Rev Pro is the top 3 of European promotion. He's one of the best with ICW. So for me, it was like before Japan, when I started pro wrestling, it was always me dream to wrestle for this company. I was sending many messages, but didn't get the chance because of course I was still young and I didn't have the experience I have now. But of course, everyone know how talented he's Robbie X.
Yeah.
Man, he's really talented.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and wrestle with him and doing like, I think a good match. I very enjoyed it. And it was crazy for me, and like everyone liked it there. So, it's always that question, will be good? Will they like me? Because you work in Japan, it's different crowd from European. So, they will like this kind of style or not. But I guess they like it. So with Robbie, it went really good. And with high-end too, ICW, the biggest company in Scotland and like one of the biggest company in Europe. and on the WWE Network too. So I really enjoyed that too. Unfortunately, I had to miss the last show for them, but I'm coming back on Fear and Loathing for the Zero G title with them. Then I'm wrestling Robbie X again in 2 weeks, like at your call. So
that's going to be fantastic. Yeah.
absolutely.
Absolutely. We've had somebody get in touch already via Twitch. How did you find your debut for ICW? So I'm guessing that's the Ian Skinner match, but a great match that you can go out and check on Peacock or the WWE Network. But I know that ICW have just opened up their matches to fans again, so that must have been great. Was that your first match for ICW against Ian Skinner?
First match ever for ICW.
A great first match indeed. And I know that you had an interview backstage, and I think you were kind of suggesting or maybe hinting that you might be interested or looking to go after the Zero G Championship. Is that a title that you have in mind when you go back to ICW?
Yeah, I mean, because of course the heavyweight title is for a bigger guy, but I really like the Zero G title. Aside from the title himself, I really like just the design.
Yeah.
For me, it's like something I would like to bring home and show to my family. So yeah, like I found my debut very good. I very enjoyed it. The fans were great, and the Zero G title is interesting for me because the guy that keeping does is really interesting. He does some cool stuff. So I can't wait to wrestle him. Hopefully, I will be 100% so I can wrestle him like how I can.
Absolutely. We can't wait to see you back over in ICW, and that championship match has to happen somewhere down the line. 2021 was also a great year for you so far because you came back over here to the UK, but you came back over to Europe, and one company in particular, you went back to Italy, didn't you, for Italian Championship Wrestling, another ICW, but Italian Championship Wrestling at their Fireball Forever show. Now, I'm guessing that, if I'm not mistaken, the name of the show was in honor of yourself, quite possibly. But that must have been really emotional for you to return back to the company that was so important in the early part of your career.
Yeah, like ICW, the Italian one, is where I started. So like, is where I actually moved my first step in pro wrestling. So be back there and be in the main event against the founder of this company and one of my teacher was really special. And they named the show after me.
Yeah.
So like the 3 show I'm doing in Italy, it's all named after me. So it's kind of cool, like why?
Very cool.
It's happening to me. So I want really, one of my dreams is to bring Italian wrestling outside of the dark, and there's so many good talent here. So I want to make it grow, and like they give it back to me, like doing this kind of stuff. So makes me really proud of the job I'm doing.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, it was good.
Yeah, absolutely. Quite emotional and a very special event for you. But it was Mr. Excellent that you fought, wasn't it, at the recent show? And he was one of, if not possibly your first ever opponent when you made your debut at 15 years of age. Is that correct?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was my first wrestling match. I had like the mask, and the mask was bigger than my face, so it keeps like turning every time. So I had to switch it during the match. But yeah, Mr. Excellent was like my first opponent.
Yeah, a really cool kind of full circle moment there for you to face your first ever opponent back in your home country and your home promotion in Italy, ICW. Really, really cool. But I mean, you mentioned that you're only 21 now, which is hard to believe considering everything you've achieved so far. But 6 years you've been in the business. Now, I know that you're known as the Prodigy Boy, but tell us about your wrestling fandom and when pro wrestling first came into your life. How much exposure did you have to pro wrestling when you were younger?
So, wrestling as always, before it was very big in Italy, before Eddie is dead and before Chris Benoit dead, he's on like on national TV on a good time.
Yeah.
So it was really popular. Show were like 5,000-10,000 in Italy. WWE were coming and like sold out every time because they were really big.
Oh yeah.
So I was watching on TV, and I was a fan, but I wasn't crazy for it. Like I really like it, but not crazy for it. But then I did many sports, but never like it actually. Never really pushed myself to it. So one times my mom found like a wrestling school near my hometown, and I just went there, and like, that's the story. I just went there and love it from the first training, so I never stopped.
Oh, 100%. And what was that kind of inspiration that kind of made you want to be a pro wrestler? Obviously, you was a big fan, but did you always have a desire or an aspiration to be a pro wrestler from a young age?
Not so really. Like when I started, yes, from 13 years old, 14 years old when I start training, yes. But when I was 8 or 9 or 10, not really. I like it. I want to be Rey Mysterio, but who doesn't? Like everyone
Oh,
wants
yeah.
to be Rey
Proper
Mysterio or
superhero.
Fish.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, not the particular, not a special, no.
Yeah, and I've got a picture that I want to bring up, and it's of Marty Jones and Johnny Saint, two British wrestling legends. How old was you there, Francesco? Was that before you started your training, and were they kind of inspirations to you wanting to get into the business yourself?
I was already training there, but it's crazy picture like age ago, and they came for a like wrestling show in Italy,
Right.
and Johnny Saint actually wrestled against Mr. Excellent, by the way,
Wow.
and I was like amazed by him because he's like 70 or
Yeah.
more, I think. So it was like crazy for me, and they did like a seminar. I think Marty Jones did the seminar, and then I went like I think 2 weeks later or a month later to England to train at the school of Johnny Saint. I still remember the training because it didn't go well. Like I was shit, not shit, but I was still very green. So I had a lot to learn, but I wasn't happy with my like performance.
Yeah.
But I was happy with the experience.
Oh, absolutely. And those sort of experiences are so valuable, especially to somebody as young as you would have been back then, 15, 16 years old. But for the first few years of your career, you were very much a tag team wrestler, weren't you? And I think you're one half of the Prodigy Boys with Gravity, also known as Aaron Sky. Tell us about that partnership with Gravity, because the two of you were quite successful as a tag team, but also very young. You won titles across Italy. That was quite a fundamental time in your early career, wasn't it? The tag team wrestling.
Yeah, I started like, especially like tag team wrestling because in Italy, before there was like kind of big guy doing wrestling and we were very skinny, but together we were like kind of different from the others and we were very young. Yeah, I think he's 1 year older than me. So we started doing this kind of prodigy team. It was called like Wonder Kids, like Johnny Storm.
Yeah.
So, so we did that, and little by little, then I wanted to have my career in single. So we kind of like broke up, and I went my way, and he went his. But yeah, I started like a tag team wrestler.
Yeah, absolutely. And didn't the two of you, I mean, like all good tag teams, they always break up in the end and feud. And I think the two of you, you did have a few matches together against one another after your tag team broke up, maybe after the first 2 or 3 years, and some championship matches were involved. But that must have been a lot of fun to wrestle one-on-one your former tag team partner.
Yeah, it was like because he's good too. He's good, and like wrestling against him, it was fun. We did like it was one independent company that doesn't exist anymore now.
Yeah.
But they bring like guys like British Strong Style, Tommy and other big names. So we did match like in that show, and people like it. So I really enjoy because it's someone that you know, so you already know what move he does. You already know how he works, so he can be great in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned earlier Mr. Excellent, the founder of Italian Championship Wrestling, and Johnny Saint and Marty Jones there. But who else was quite influential on your kind of early career? Them first couple of years before you left Italy, who were kind of some of the other mentors that you might have had in Italy?
I had another guy called like Cobra. It's my main trainer in Italy. He's a good wrestler, very good. Like he never went, like he went sometimes abroad, but he never focused on like living on wrestling. But he's really good, and he's like my main coach before, and good friend of mine. So he really took care of me when I started. So actually, they didn't take kids from 14 years old, just from 16. But I was very convincing. So he took me in his school, and like I'm glad he did.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I'm sure he didn't regret it either, especially with how you developed. But you did have a taste of some single success fairly early on in your career as well for Rising Sun Wrestling Promotion, also in Italy. And you're a former two-time Rising champion for that particular group. You must have been around about 17, I think, when you won that championship, so still very young. But how was that time for you, especially having a lot of success with your tag team partner and now in singles? All of that success and competition at such an early age must have been an incredible learning experience for you.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I was probably 17 or 18 when I won the Rising Sun Championship, and it was like a huge moment because when I won the title, there was a good storyline behind, so the fans went nuts, and it's still one of my favorite moments because when I did like 1, 2, 3, people like jumping on their seat, and it was really cool moment, and very very proud of that because even if I was young, the promoter believed in me.
Yeah.
Like it was like the first time apart from ICW, the first time that actually someone really believed in me and give me the chance to shine, and that make me grow a lot. I grew up a lot because with that title I had some international experience, some international wrestler like Ashley Dunn, Flash Morgan Webster, Angelico, and like very talented guy. So from that moment, I like kind of give it back to the promoter to say, "Yo, thank you very much for the opportunity. Now it's time to do the job." So like
Yeah.
keep working hard and like be worth of the title.
Absolutely. And when you're kind of at that age, 17, 18 years old, you're winning championships already, you're being trusted by the promoter to represent their company. Did you feel any additional pressure or feel that things were maybe moving a bit too fast at that age, especially when you're being featured so heavily in main event matches at such a young age? Did you feel any additional pressure, or how did you cope with the pressure that was being put on you?
I wouldn't talk about pressure, but more like the impression, highs on of the other people, especially other wrestler. They're like, he's way too young, he's way too skinny, bro, and like, so it's not about pressure, but it's like other people' opinion, and especially when you're young,
Sure.
you kind of care about what other people thinks. So it was tough for that, but luckily it wasn't like so important. So yeah, it was like tough because I was young, but I didn't really care. I just wanted to do wrestling and become the best.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was my motivation, my main motivation.
Yeah, that's a really great answer. Really, really great answer. But when did All Japan first come knocking? When did All Japan first come into the picture? And who approached who? Did you go to them? Did they come to you?
So the story is go back like 1 month before the actual contact. So I was supposed to wrestle Osprey in a show in Rising Sun. He was coming there like in 2017, and I was supposed to wrestle him. But 1 week before, because I'm dumb, I nearly broke my ankle playing basketball.
Right.
So, so like a dumb idiot, I I couldn't wrestle with Osprey, so I was very sad about it. But 1 month later, I was invited to a show where like Chris Master and Tajiri was there. My ankle wasn't still good, but like I was like I bend it very strong, take painkiller, and like I say let's go. And luckily, it's probably the best decision I've ever made in life because at the show I did like a scramble 6 man, and Tajiri-san saw me and he asked me like my contact and like he asked to the promoter who I was. I don't know, he found something in me. He was interested, and so I gave him the contact. And few weeks later, we were talking, and he was like, "You want to come to Japan for 2 months?" That was the beginning, like just for 2 months. I didn't know if I was going back to Japan or like that kind of stuff. So, and then of course I said yes, and Tajiri-san brought me to Japan to Akiyama June at the time. Yes, exactly this show. And Akiyama brought me to the show, to the company, and that's the story of the beginning.
Absolutely. And you were part of the All Japan Dojo as well, weren't you? So I'm guessing that was the training facility for All Japan Pro Wrestling for their trainees. But how did you find the dojo? Because you always hear these stories of Japanese wrestling dojos being really grueling, very, very hard and tough. But did you find it completely different to what you were used to back in Italy?
Yeah, the story are all true. Like it's a very tough place. Like dojo is like no, you cannot leave something like dojo because it's just Japanese way. Like it's completely only from Japan, so you cannot leave that outside from Japan. Or like for example, the LA dojo, something similar to Japanese dojo, but no, it's a good place because it make you grow up a lot. Like literally from 19 years old, I stayed there for 2 years. I completely changed it like person because you need to live with other people. You need to train twice every day. You need to cook the food for everyone and like be respectful, clean, and do all this kind of stuff that make you grow up like a person. Like not only just wrestler, of course he does, but especially as a person and like as a human being. But yeah, it's a tough place. Like for physical is very tough, but mentally is very tough too.
Yeah. And what kind of like training or drills were you expected to do on a daily basis?
So we woke up like around 8, start cleaning the dojo. Then by 10, the pro wrestling class started. And in the beginning, I was trained like by Akiyama Jun and Yuma Ayagi, that is the other guy. Then Tajiri-san brought in, so it was really cool experience because Akiyama and Aoyagi-san was like All Japan classic style, that is good, but Tajiri-san was like international experience. So from WWE, Mexico, Europe, and Japan, New Japan, All Big Japan, all this kind of company. So it was really like my favorite training are with Tajiri-san. So when I did training, I always recorded video about it, and we did that kind of train until like maybe 2 or 3 hours, or more. Then we cook chanko for everyone. Especially, I cook sometimes. Then young boy come and they cook for everyone. And later on, like I do gym training. So I start 2 hours, 1 hour, 2 hours of gym training, and then finally maybe some cardio at night, and then rest finally. Some bath because we had a big bath at the dojo, so that was cool.
Wow. And that was what, 5, 6, 7 days a week? Was it nearly every day?
Yeah, 6, 7 days a week.
Wow. That sounds pretty grueling. But I'm guessing that you loved it, you enjoyed it, the experience was fantastic. When you were out there in the ring, when you were finally performing in an All Japan ring, what did you acclimatize to? Not only a different country, but a different fans, maybe a different style of wrestling. How quickly did you adapt to wrestling over in Japan?
It took me like quite a little bit because I didn't have much experience still. I wrestled a few times in the UK and few times, like maybe in Germany, like one times in Germany. So I wasn't ready for Japan. It was completely different. So it took me quite a bit to adapt, and especially because I was being nervous. So, and like being nervous. So first, for example, the first time I was keep eating my nails. That another wrestler came in and was like, "Yo, relax," because it was at the cork and hole. So I was like fucking
Wow.
eating all my fingers, and it was like 8-man tag, so 4-4. So it was not so tough match, but it was my first match in Japan, so I was like, wow,
Nervous.
yeah, very nervous, especially for like excited but very nervous.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned Tajiri. Now, over the 2 and a bit years that you were there, you wrestled Tajiri a lot, mostly kind of in competition, sometimes teaming up with him. But Tajiri is a legend. You mentioned he's wrestled all over the world at a very, very high level. And yeah, wherever he's gone, he's been kind of main eventing. How was that to kind of be in the ring with Tajiri? And what's the guy like? What sort of relationship did you have with him outside of the ring as well?
So, wrestle with Tajiri, is a guy that you watch on TV.
Mm.
He's the guy now who's being my mentor. So I was like, yo, wow. And he's so talented. I wrestled him like maybe 4 or 5 times. And every time I had to learn something, every time I had to like always learn that little details that make me improve. So it was like every time I enjoy wrestling him, he really took care of me in Japan because he was like kind of my Japanese dad because he took care for me. He always, when we go out on tour and maybe there was no foreigner, he was the guy take a look for me because when you go on tour, like Japanese maybe go by himself to drink or eat.
Yeah.
But Tajiri always asked me if I wanted to go out and stuff like that.
That's cool. That's really, really cool. And I mean, just jumping ahead a little bit to this year and the junior Battle of Glory tournament, which you eventually ended up winning. Now, you actually defeated Tajiri in one of the first matches of that tournament, but 2 years earlier, you lost to Tajiri in a first round match of the same tournament. So in that 2 year period, it shows how you've improved, how you've come along. But another full circle moment where you lost to Tajiri 2 years ago, and then you defeated him in the same tournament 2 years later. So how does that make you feel, that kind of progression, that development that you've had in that time?
Oh, just a little thing. I saw we have some question on YouTube if you didn't see, or it's for later.
I will bring that up very soon, but let's see. But so Tajiri, yeah, I can't see that question at the moment. But so kind of that full circle moment of defeating Tajiri 2 years after he beat you in the same tournament when you just started with the company. How was that for you?
Yeah, it's like wrestling is good and storyline is the best part about wrestling. And this was like a long-term storyline. So I did like 2 years where he beat me like 4 times.
Yeah.
Like in in like junior battle of glory and in title match. So it was like finally the push I needed to like make me believe like the trophy winner. So everyone like at the arena was like, oh, he didn't expect that because everyone was expecting Tajiri to win. So that what like long-term story is about.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And you did end up winning that tournament earlier on this year. I think it was around June time, and 4 matches in 2 nights. I think you had 1 match on one night and 3 the next. So a great 48 hours for you. But sum up that tournament for us if you can, because you beat El Lindemann in the final. But 4 excellent matches that must have been the highlight of your career up to that point.
Yeah, it was very tough experience for like
Oh yeah.
cardio. like very, very like tiring experience, but the best to date, like with the championship and stuff. But it was the first, like my big first accomplishment. So like the trophy, it was huge, and I was the guy like that. Finally, after a long time, one guy won the tournament. The one guy Jin won the tournament, and at 21 years old. So my girlfriend was there at the time. So it was really special to me because my family watched it, my friends watched it, my girlfriend watched it. So it's that kind of stuff that like, yeah, finally I did that. Yeah, like one Italian guy did before me. I don't know if some European did, but I don't think. But I did like the first one today. I'm the winner, so it was really cool experience.
Oh, history making, an absolutely fantastic win over them 2 days, and a fantastic trophy as well, a huge
Yeah,
trophy. But
really fun, but I can't.
absolutely, and then I think it was only 3 weeks later that you were in a championship match for the All Japan Pro Wrestling World Junior Heavyweight Championship, and I know that you'd fought for the championship before, but this time you were successful, and this time you kind of topped off your career with All Japan by being the junior heavyweight champion. How did that make you feel? Because you must have felt like that was the best moment of your career so far, and you must have been on a real high after that match.
Yeah, I was because I wrestled for the title back in February in 2020, and against one Dragon Gate guy, and I really enjoyed the match. Like match was great. The guy was Susumu Yokosuka, is really talented guy, so I very enjoyed that. But in June, I was like wrestling in one of the biggest arena that All Japan did like in a couple of years because we did some big arena, but Ota World was the biggest so far, and like in Tokyo, the most special, one of the most cool. The arena is really cool, like very hot inside, but really cool arena, like kind of new and wrestling, like walking down the carpet, like with fans watching with like a star, like makes me feel like wow, I'm doing this. And when I won, and like people actually whoa, didn't expect it because I was the underdog, you know, like Sami Zayn, the underdog from the underground.
Yeah,
So
it was Koji Iwamoto, wasn't it?
yeah, it was
Iwamoto-san that you beat.
yeah, it was Koji Iwamoto, and like the same that Sami Zayn said, the underdog from the underground, because nobody expected me to win. Yeah, exactly this match, and it was really really emotional for me, and like everyone in backstage congratulated me too. So that's not something that Japanese wrestler does often.
Yeah.
So, but I was very happy about it, and yeah, it was really cool experience. And you know, being the first European to do it, it makes it made it more special for me.
Oh, 100%, absolutely. But you had to return back to Europe. Was there a particular reason why you left Japan? Was it a decision that you made because of the pandemic, or what was the decision behind leaving Japan?
I stayed like in Japan 1 year and 9 months without leaving.
Yeah,
So it was like nearly 2 years straight. And even if I had like special person like my girlfriend there, and it really helped me a lot to stay there and focus on my goals and everything. I missed my family because I didn't see my little brother, my big brother, and my mom in a long time. So I was just like, I want to go home and wrestling in Europe, doing like WXW, Ref Pro, ICW, OTT, all these big company. So I want like Japan is awesome. I want to go back to Japan, but I want to learn some other experience. So that was why.
yeah, absolutely. And just my final question on Japan. But what were some of your other highlights or some of your other favorite moments or matches while you were out in Japan? We mentioned about Tajiri and your fantastic success with All Japan, but were there other memorable matches or opponents or moments that you'll never forget?
So, like, some really special moment would be the Tajiri relationship, the Tajiri matches, the Kento Mihara match. Like, Kento Mihara, I think, is one of the top 3 wrestler in Japan, and I wrestled with him, and it was really cool match for me. The win of the trophy, the win of the championship, and especially the trust that they gave to this Italian young kid. Because when I went there, I was just like 62 kilo, but when I left, I was like 80.
Yeah.
So they believe no one was at 62 kilo in All Japan when I came. So I never thought they actually take me.
Yeah, yeah. And you had a great time. And like you say, it's a company you'd like to go back and wrestle for in the future. Your heart is very strong for All Japan Pro Wrestling.
Yeah. I will.
Got a question from a person you might know fairly well, but Gary Ward has been in touch, and Gary asks, what or who has been your biggest influence in AJPW? I know we've spoken a lot about Tajiri, but there must have been a lot of other really strong influences that helped you while you're over in Japan.
One of the guys that like influenced me the most, because he's kind of like big presence, it was Jun Akiyama. When he was there and he didn't go to DDT, he was like the guy that was teaching us. So even if he was very hard and very tough trainer, I was always look out for him, like, because I love his match when he was every time, even now, but especially when he was early All Japan, early Noah. He's really good wrestler, and so he influenced me a lot. Or Kento Mihara too, because other than good wrestler, he's a good dude.
Yeah,
He's like really nice guy, and like we laughed and joke a lot. So it's that kind of friendship that you need when you're far from home. Jake Lee too. So yeah, like this guy are the top of my influence there. Jake Lee especially, because he's such a nice guy too.
That's really cool. And we've spoken about what a fantastic year you've had this year. And you were mentioned or listed inside the PWI Top 500 as well, which is the first time an Italian wrestler has been inside the PWI Top 500. So I know that you're very, very proud of being listed inside the PWI Top 500. Tell us about that. When you first found the news that you were going to be in this year's 500, how did you feel?
I mean, I think I'm the first Italian this year, but I think Bruno was before.
All right, yeah.
They did before, or like Fabian Eichner too, probably. But like this year, I was the only one, so
of course,
it was really cool. And I didn't expect it actually to be, for me, 373. I think 300.
was it 306?
306, yeah, fuck.
Yeah.
I was putting like 70 position.
Yep.
Yeah, putting like 306, it was like very high number for me.
Yeah.
Because it's like 500 of the best wrestler in the world, and me at 21 years old from Italy, the only guy, and there with the other. So I'm planning to be back the next year too, even in higher position.
Yeah, it's got to happen.
Like, yeah, it was magical experience, because even if many people and many wrestlers think it's just a list, for me it's like an accomplishment to the job I did, to all the hard work I did during this year. It's like something, okay, Akira, you're on the map. Now it's time to get the job done, Still a lot of work to do, but we are seeing you. So it's for me, it's cool. It's like some pushing your fire.
Absolutely. And we know that you're very fast-paced in the ring, a very athletic style, but you also like a good physical match as well, don't you? I've seen many of your matches where you've not been afraid to lay it in, and you've not been afraid to take the punishment as well. You do like a physical match, but who would you say has been some of your toughest opponents in your professional wrestling career? And you at the end of the match, you've been in a real kind of battle with that person.
So especially in Japan, of course, after you go outside from Japan, you get kind of hard because they teach you to be hard.
Oh yeah.
Suama, I don't know if you ever heard of him. Suama, that is like the World Tag Champion in All Japan. He's a very big guy and he hit very strong. Ishikawa Shuji, that I had a couple of like more than a couple of matches, so he hit very strong too. And like many guys, especially in Japan, they hit strong, so you need to take it. Like you need to grow up your like building and your resistance to that, and little by little, it feels like it's not so strong anymore because you're used to it.
Yeah.
It's still strong, but you get used to it.
Yeah, you've built up that tolerance, haven't you? That strong style mentality. But you definitely love a good match. I've seen that in the matches that I've seen. We've got another fan question that came in earlier on from an Ashley Clements. And are there anyone in the UK or Europe that you'd like to go up against that you've not had a chance to yet? So any kind of opponents that you have your eye on, either in Europe or over here in the UK?
I mean, there's a lot of wrestler I would like to go. In the UK, there's a guy called Will Ospreay that I really would like. You know, everyone knows him.
That would be a phenomenal
He's a
match.
good friend of mine, and he's one of my favorite wrestlers. So him, but many young guys like Ethan Allen, Luke Jacobs, Chris Ridgeway. I really wanted to wrestle him, but unfortunately I can't. But like OJ Mo and Robbie, I really want to wrestle him again, and luckily I'm doing it in 2 weeks. But there's so many young wrestlers in Germany too, like a lot of young wrestler or older wrestler like Axman. I would like a single match with Axman, and Karen War is one of my favorite too. Marius Alani is really good wrestler too, I think.
Oh yeah.
Like so many good wrestlers. And after Corona, you know, many guys left and many things happen. But the good guys, or the talented guys, are still here for like make wrestling grow up. So yeah, there's a lot of guys that I would like to face, and you know, even make Italy scene grow up because we have some interesting guys and girls here. So help open the door for them too.
Yeah, absolutely. But first of all, we want to kind of wish you a speedy recovery, and we hope that your rehab continues really, really well, so we can see you back in the ring sometime soon. And that match with Chris Ridgeway that would have happened at Wrestle Carnival this coming weekend, that's got to happen because I think that you two would have a phenomenal match. Have you faced Ridgeway before?
No, I never faced Ridgeway, but I heard he's very strong. Like, he's very tough opponent. So I was really looking forward to that. But he's strong, so yeah, I can't wait to wrestle him, but I never work with him.
Yeah, and like I say, he's got that Japanese background because he worked in Noah for quite a while, and definitely a pure striker. So that'd be a great matchup when you do finally get in there, and hopefully that will happen sooner rather than later. But before we let you go, an opportunity for you to throw out any social media plugs, so where people can reach out to you, say hi, get to know more about Francesco Akira, and all about your wrestling career. So do you have your socials, Francesca?
Yeah, I have like Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, whatever you want. And
I think I've got some of your addresses at the bottom there, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, exactly. Francesco Akira is there on. And if you want, I have my new t-shirt on too, so just drop me a message. And just like, if you like my work, keep supporting me. I really appreciate all the support. Is very important for me. I really enjoyed this time, man. It was great to have a chat with you. I hope we can do it again soon.
Absolutely, and I can't wait to see you kind of backstage one day, hopefully, so we can say thank you for your appearing on this show. But Francesco Akira, you've been a fantastic guest to have on our 3-year anniversary show. So for a special show, we've had an extra special guest. So thank you very much, and I hope that your recovery from your injury is a speedy one, my friend.
Thank you.
Take care. Thank you for coming
on.